What is up, everybody? This is going to be a different kind of video, and I know that it's been a while, and I apologize, but today I want to talk with you about but God moments. We've been talking about but God moments in our church, and really what it is where you face a situation or you're facing some kind of tribulation or whatever, but God intervenes. You have those moments where God changes the situation, or maybe He transforms you, or He just brings a good out of a bad situation, or just changes the situation and all. And we have those but God moments. So to kind of go off into that, I'm gonna tell you a little bit of a backstory. So in July last year, I was going through, I don't want to self-diagnose myself and say depression, but I think what I was facing really was more of a spiritual burnout, and it caused me to not want to it caused me to isolate myself from my church family, from my church community, and also it caused me not to want to do the things that I would normally do, or to not do things or want to do things that I would love to do. And just, I was tired and just really burnt out. And what it is I was running on fumes and trying to do everything, trying to say yes to everything, when really I should have stepped back and said, well, I can't do that because right now I'm doing something else. And just being the type of person to know that it's okay to say no sometimes. But I was a yes person last year, and so in July 2024, I was going through what I believe was spiritual burnout, and me and my family went on a trip to Chiha, and we went on a trip to Chiha, and I was still kind of facing spiritual burnout, but that trip was very much needed. And at that time, our church was still talking about but God moments. So I was kind of just reflecting on that while hiking and all, reflecting that while hiking and just thinking about that. And then we had hiked one day to a waterfall and then hiked to Bald Rock the next day. And I had a but God moment on the second day hike where I was just really down, really just going through a lot of emotions and just really thinking about stuff. And of course, the enemy was attacking me too, saying, you're not worthy, and you haven't made a difference, you haven't made an impact, so you should just stop what you're doing because you haven't really made a difference in anyone or in God's kingdom. And so I was just going through that while I was on Bald Rock Cliff. And then all of a sudden my dad was, my dad hiked with me, but all of a sudden my dad saw this note, and there was a note that was stuck in between like rocks. And I'm not going to tell you exactly where it is because I can't tell you that. It was my dad that found it, but he found it between like two rocks, and it was hidden to where you really wouldn't see it unless you was right up on it. And anyways, he pulled it out and showed it to me, and I began reading. And it was very much a timely message that I needed to read. And I can't remember what all it said because it was a whole page, but I remember the gist of it, and it was basically saying don't give up, that God sees you, God loves you. You're reading this note for a purpose, and just know that God, you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. And just really encouraging, really very timely message. And I just started reflecting on that. And I was like, wow, here I am going through this spiritual burnout, going through like all these emotions that we carry sometimes. And just, I felt, even though I know it was somebody that wrote that letter, I really felt like God was talking to me through that letter. And it was just a very timely message. And then fast forward to us leaving Chiha. We left Chiha, then Wednesday night class, came back to class, and then a couple Wednesdays, we started learning names of God, different names of God. And one of them was El Roi, which means the God who sees me. And that's what Hagar named God for rescuing her, when he rescued her in the desert. And it just came full circle, and I was like, wow, like I really experienced El Roi back in Chiha on the mountain, because I was going through all these things. I was experiencing spiritual burnout, experiencing just really being low and feeling low. And I experienced El Roi because at that moment when I needed something, God showed me that, hey, I still see you, and maybe you need to hear that today. I want you to know that God loves you. God sees you. You may not feel seen. You may not think that no one cares. I promise you God does. God sees you. He knows you. He's called you by name. He is El Roi. And no matter what you face in life, no matter how you feel, I want you to know that God truly is El Roi. He truly is the God who sees you, the God who sees me. And maybe you're like Hagar and you're in the desert. Maybe you're not literally in a desert, but you're in a desert where you're facing all these kind of tribulations and trials, and you don't see yourself ever getting out of it. Just like what that letter spoke to me, and what I felt like God spoke for that person to put on that letter, I'm going to speak it into you. God has good plans for you. God loves you. God sees you. And He promises us to never leave us nor forsake us. And He will rescue you. Don't give up. Keep going. Keep pushing forward in faith. And just know He is El Roi. Just know that. Believe that. Walk in that. I know it can be hard, but just know that He's got you. Anyways, I hope that this message speak to you somehow. And know that you can have many but God moments. So don't give up faith. Keep pressing forward. God bless you all, and I'll see you all again soon.